Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Welcome to our 2023 State of the City. It's great. It's a new format, new way of doing this. I love that it's just open and you can come in, and if you have to leave early, we won't be offended. I know it's busy, right? May is busy and Saturdays are busy, and glad you took some time out of your day to come join us, because I think it's really important that we just take some time and celebrate everything that we are doing as a city, all of the great accomplishments from last year, share some of what we're working on for this year, because we're all a part of it, right? Those of us on council, those on staff who work for the city, and all of you who are in our community, we are all working on this together. So to take a little time out and talk about it and share what's happening. All right, so here's our agenda. Pretty short and sweet today, not going to take up too much time, but we're going to start with me. I'm going to talk a little bit about what council's been doing. I'm going to cover some of the highlights from last year, 2022, and then a little bit about our priorities and our initiatives for this year, what we've been working on so far. We've got a few council members here that want to share some comments, say hello. Our city manager's going to share some of the work that the city's doing. And then if anybody has any questions at the end, we'll be around to answer any questions. So that's the agenda for today. All right, so that's me. There's a slide with me on it. I was going to tell them to take it out. I was like, that's fine. But yeah, so I think I know most of you, and if I haven't met you, I hope to meet you, after this. But I've been mayor now for, this is my 4th year. I started January 2020, and it's actually my 10th year on council. So my 10th year serving the city, which sounds like a really long time when I put it in that perspective, but honestly, time really does fly. It doesn't feel that long, even these last few years. Granted, like the first 2 years were a blur because of COVID, but it doesn't feel that long because we are doing great things. And when when you're working for a city that you love, a community of great people, and a team of people who are so committed and dedicated to the work, it really makes it easy, and it does make the time go really fast. So that's me. And before I get into some of what we worked on last year, I always feel like if you do a state of the city, you have to at least say what the state of the city is, right? And I think all of you here are well-informed folks of the city, and you can all agree that the state of our city, the state of Golden, is really strong right now. We have an excellent team. We have a strong foundation in our financials and in our infrastructure and in our base. And we really have a strong community of people here who love Golden. So I think the state of our city is strong. When I talk to officials, mayors from other cities, at other meetings, they're like, how are things going in Golden? And my response every time is, Golden is doing great. Because every time that truly is what's going on, we are doing great. And they are envious of all the good things we have going on here in Golden. I'm going to talk about 2022. And before I talk about some of the council initiatives, council priorities that we agreed on, I have to start with take us back a year to the beginning of 2022. Council had our priorities, and then we quickly realized we had an initiative we had to take on that we hadn't planned for. It wasn't on our radar, and we spent a significant part of our first half of the year working on, and that was the recruitment of a new city manager. So last year, about first half of the year, City Council started an executive search to find our next city manager, and it is one of the most important responsibilities we have as councilors. And that is the hiring of a city manager who's the executive to run the city. And I know many of you here participated in that process. I want to thank you, whether you're a community member, whether you're staff, for helping to provide your input and give us great information and ideas and thoughts about what we needed as our next city manager. And I really want to thank our city council. They put in a lot of time, a lot of dedication, a lot of work to review, to think about what the city needs, what's the right individual, what's the right characteristics, and I really want to thank them for all that hard work, because hopefully we can all agree. I know I do. I think we did a really good job in hiring Scott Vargo. So we're really happy to have Scott start here in the city the second half of the year. So that was a really important part of our work on council last year. And yet somehow we were still able to move forward a number of our initiatives as well. And I'm not going to talk about everything on the list, but I'm going to talk about a few that I think were really important last year. And the first one is one that I talk about a lot, and that is housing. We were able to, in 2022, complete our housing needs and strategies assessment. And housing supply and affordability has been a topic and a priority in Golden for many, many years. Probably the last 15, 20 years, we've been talking about it as a community, as a council. It's been top of mind for a lot of years. And I am really enthusiastic about the place we are right now towards making measurable progress towards addressing housing supply and affordability here. Back in 2021, we were able as council to authorize, and then the city was able to hire a new position, full-time position for an affordable housing policy coordinator, so a dedicated personnel focused on this topic for the city. We brought in Janet McCubbin, and she was then able to spearhead our effort to bring on board the team to work on the housing needs and strategies assessment and move that forward through 2022 with lots of input from community members, lots of great discussion, and then the report that council adopted at the end of last year. And we've tried things in the past as a city around housing. We've done task forces. We had a planning commission work on things. We brought in a consultant for a couple of years, a contract employee. But what this assessment does is it pulls all of it together. It took the community input. It brought in all the demographic data of who we are as a city. It looks at our current housing situation. What do we have here for housing in Golden? Projects our future needs, and then identify strategies that will actually make a difference for our targeted needs. Not what Denver's doing or Boulder's doing or some other city, but what we need here in Golden. And so I'm so excited by where we are right now. We've adopted the plan. It's like 170 pages. It has a lot of great information in there. I'm so enthusiastic about it. Earlier this week, I did a webinar for Colorado Municipal League to talk to other cities in the state about doing their own housing needs and assessment, because I think it's such a critical piece towards solving housing needs. And that work is ongoing. So while we adopted it last year, council put together an affordable housing committee that's been doing the work this year and is going to be coming forward with recommendations to council meeting later this month. So huge piece of work from last year. And the part that I want to tie it back to is really why we do the work, why it's been such a topic of conversation. And it's not just that people see the need and see it, but it is living up to our values. So most of you know our Golden Vision 2030, and that's who we want to be in the future. And one of our principles in there is specifically around housing, and it is that we want diverse housing options to provide opportunity to a wide spectrum of residents. That's what we want. That's what we said we wanted, years ago, and that's still what we want for the future. And we need to actually take the steps to get us there, to make sure that we are creating those opportunities for that wide spectrum, for that diversity of people here in Golden. The second topic, lodging tax, another one that we talked about for so many years. Like more than a decade, we talked about lodging tax, and we finally got it done. So we referred it to the ballot, voters approved it in November 2021, and we started collecting tax January 2022, and collected for a full year to the tune of almost $2.6 million. So successful rollout of that, successful collection, and an additional almost $2.6 million that we didn't have. And council spent a lot of time talking about how are we going to spend this money? Where's it going to go? And really, the exciting part about it is that we were able to come up with, determination to spend the money towards those projects, those programs to address visitor impacts, right? We all know we have increasing challenges with visitors and the impacts they have to our community, as well as thriving community projects. These are the things that are going to continue to make Golden a great place for all of us to live. So really exciting, that lodging tax rollout in 2022. Another that I want to highlight is council's work that started in 2020. Kind of continued on through the adoption of the new READY plan in 2022, our racial equity, diversity and inclusion plan. We adopted it last year after a lot of work, again, a lot of community input, and now we're moving forward on how do we implement kind of the next actions. What are we prioritizing and what are we moving forward this year on that READY plan? So that was continuing work that came to a real great conclusion of that phase to be able to move on to the next phase of our READY plan. Our fire department did a fantastic job last year in 2022. They brought forward an updated wildfire protection plan. And the focus on 2022 was community education, raising awareness about wildfire prevention and mitigation efforts, and held a series of meetings, neighborhood parks. Hopefully some of you were able to attend. I was able to go to some and really just share, both from Golden Fire as well as partner agencies like Jeffco Open Space, our sustainability department, measures that we can all take as individuals to help on prevention and mitigation for wildfire, and particularly timely meetings, education, and work from the city in the wake of the December 2021 Marshall Fire. So a lot of really timely, important information, and a lot of work that the city did to bring that out to each of our neighborhoods and share with all of us. And then the final thing that was sort of on our council priorities, and this is behind the scenes kind of stuff. We talk about it in council meetings, but people don't think about it all that often. And that is community feedback. What do we do to get the pulse of the community? Because we know we can't just listen to the people who are able to show up on Tuesday nights for council meetings to give public comment. That is not representative of our entire community. People have lives, they have work, they have families, they have individual obligations. That means they can't come on Tuesday nights. So we gather feedback. We, for the third time, completed the National Citizen Survey. We do it every 3 years since 2016. And this is feedback on the livability of Golden. It allows, by going through the National Citizen Survey, it allows us to look at trends in Golden over time. We now have 3 data points every 3 years. What are the trends in Golden? What's important to people about livability? What do they love? What are the problems? It also allows us to look at how we're doing against national benchmarks. Because looking at our own information in vacuum could mean like, wow, we're doing great or we're doing terribly, but then you realize like, oh, every other city gets ranked similarly. We're kind of, doing what everybody else is, or wow, we're doing a lot better than other cities in these areas. So that benchmarking is so helpful because all of that information then drives our priorities for the next year. What are the topics that are important that we should be addressing on council, that the city should be working on? So while it's behind the scenes and yeah, it's data, not everybody loves that. We do, because then it informs us on the work that we should be doing to improve as a city. Last year, we also, for the first time, completed the community assessment survey of older adults, and this is a program, Jim Dale's excited for that. This is a program that our state provides through the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and so really great input on assessment on the thoughts, opinions, and priority, the importance of older adults through a tool that has been proven to work in other cities like ours. So not something we came up with on our own to say, what do you think, but something that we know can lead to really great policy and programs based on the fact that it's been successful elsewhere. A couple of other things for 2022. City does a really, really good, city staff does a really, really good job getting us money. right? We have a healthy budget, we healthy tax base, but there's always those other needs, right? The special projects, the infrastructure, the services that we want to provide that are outside of our standard budget. And the city does a fantastic job going after grant funding. I think we outperform other cities of our size in terms of getting money, federal, state, local funding. The top two are some big numbers. We got some congressionally directed spending for phase one design of Highway 93 realignment, which we've been talking about for a long time, from Congressman Ed Perlmutter before he left office, $2.32 million. We also were successful in getting a SAFER grant for 7 new firefighters from the Department of Homeland Security, and a variety of other funds for sustainability efforts, infrastructure, transportation, mobility, programs like our homeless navigation program and our child care program here at the community center. So really excellent work that, again, not like on our council priorities, but fantastic work that the city's able to do to bring in outside funding. And I had to add this because everybody loves new things, right? When we are able to actually, I guess we didn't smash the bottle on the fire truck. I hosed it down this year. Or cut the ribbon. We cut the ribbon at DeLong Park. These are things that are added to our city that make it a better place, right? That are going to endure for a lot of years. We opened up DeLong Park, which is going to be a neighborhood park forever and ever. We saw the opening of Flats at 4th Street, which is through our partner Foothills Housing Authority, for new income restricted units here in the city for people to move in 2022. We saw the final installation of the pedestrian bridge after many months that connects our Clear Creek corridor with a new bridge, the fire truck. And then, not permanent, but really cute, the Public Art Commission tiny art installations. That just adds some fun, right? I did the tour, I went around and discovered all of them, and I found it really, really enjoyable. And I hope you all discovered all of them. Some of them are still there, some have gone away. They weren't meant to be permanent, but certainly fun additions last year. And then just a few other 2022 before I move on, and that is communications. I'm really happy to have worked with the communications department to launch Mondays with the Mayor. I've been doing it now since April of 22, so it's been over a year, 15 minutes every Monday, live streaming, just talk to whoever wants to listen about what's going on in the city. Another way to outreach and share information, because if you're like me, your inbox and your email is really full, and the last thing you want is another email on top of all the others. So we launched that. Just want to highlight, 2022 was a really good financial year for the city. Revenues were up over 2021, which just shows that our businesses really rebounded and were really strong after the pandemic and some of the slowdowns. They had really strong revenues last year. We were selected again to work on housing. This is existing housing in the city, focusing on how to improve the health of our existing homes here. We were selected as one of 6 cities across the country for National League of Cities for the Healthy Housing Community of Practice. Another thing I wanted to highlight, because we continue to do this, the city partners with lots of organizations within the city and without to bring services, to bring programs, to bring training to all of us here in the community. And last year, in partnership with Jefferson Center for Mental Health, the city brought the community, anybody who was able to participate, their mental health first aid training opportunities. And so these are really important programs, really great opportunity to bring experts into the city to help us and those who are interested in learning more. And then just wanted to continue to highlight Guiding Golden. We've had it for a few years now, and it just increasingly becomes a great tool for people who, again, can't maybe show up at that community meeting that's held in person to give their feedback, but really want to know what's going on, want to participate. We had over 115,000 visits, And we've had, this is people filling out surveys, participating in online forums, accessing and downloading documents or looking at project information and timelines. All of that's available on Guiding Golden so that anybody in the city, anybody can participate and have their voice heard on our projects and work that's going on. So that's 2022. I want to talk just briefly about 2023 before I turn things over. And just going to start real high level strategic planning. And many of you have heard me talk about this, but it's such an important part of what we do at the city and how we organize our work and how we prioritize on council. And I had thought a lot about how we do things before I became mayor, and just to make sure that we as city council were directing our future, that we were providing that leadership, that priorities for the city to work on, providing clear strategy. And in 2020, we adopted a new strategic planning process. 2021, we adopted the first strategic plan for the city. We updated it in 2022, and here we are in 2023, and we've changed it a little bit. And this is what we have now represented visually. So the success factors are what we created in 2020. They haven't changed. These are the areas that we believe are going to make us successful as a city and the work that we want to be done to make sure we're achieving our future and our vision that we want. Council initiatives are the annual ones that we adopt as the priorities for the city. I'm going to spend my time talking about those two, because then the key projects to achieve those initiatives and the really amazing ongoing day-to-day work of the city, that's done by our city team. So I'm going to talk about the council side. I'll leave it up to Scott to talk about the work that goes on to achieve these priorities. So the success factors, these haven't changed since we talked about them in 2020. The words are specific, the language in there is specific, because we believe these are the things that are going to help us achieve not just Golden Vision 2030, but 2050, 2070, on into the future. These are the areas where we organize. And I don't know that you can read them, but you've seen them before. This is from 2020. These are the 5 areas. I'll go through into each one. So active, connected, and sustainable. These are the priorities that council adopted for 2023. These are all continuing projects. We've been working on this. For Heart of Golden, we adopted a final design in 2022. And so this year it's working on designing, evaluating phase 1, which is the municipal needs, facilities, parking, event space, all on the east side of the corridor. So while the project Heart of Golden's been ongoing, the focus this year is really to build out, or really to design in a more fleshed out manner that east end of the corridor. Net zero energy codes we've been talking about for a couple of years. We're getting really close for new buildings, because those buildings are going to be around for a lot of years, and we want them contributing to our sustainable future. Park and recreation plans, again, ongoing, finishing an open space master plan that was started, phase 1 completed, working on that next phase, as well as a parks master plan on what new park amenities are going to be needed. Oh, there's one more. And then bike and pedestrian master plan. We've had so much great community input already, so much feedback starting last year on bike and pedestrian needs in our city, and building out that very first, we've never had one, bike and pedestrian master plan for the city, and looking forward to implementing some of those first year or early identified policies that we can adopt from that master plan. Affordable and thriving, the zoning code rewrite that was started a few years back. We adopted phase 1, which was the new zoning code for residential. That was adopted last year. This year we're focused on adopting the new zoning for commercial buildings in the city. So that is continuing on with the focus on commercial after we got all that great work done on residential. Talked about housing for all, or housing needs and strategies assessment, and the work from the Affordable Housing Committee that's coming forward. Creek corridor strategies, ongoing. Pilot new ideas, new strategies. What can we do to help make sure our Clear Creek corridor is safe and accessible for all users? So that is continuing work this year as well, high importance. Downtown mobility, prioritize that as well. We've got a number of things in here to how do we make sure that we can get around our downtown safely, conveniently, and that is not just parking, but it's also mobility, it's also things like transit or shuttle service, really focusing on moving around through and around our downtown. Under safe, inclusive, and engaged, I talked a little bit about implementing the READY plan. I'm going to talk just for a second about the cultural master plan because I'm really excited about this one. We have amazing organizations, we have amazing individuals who are working in the creative space, right? They're focused on the arts, they're focused on culture, heritage, history, all the things we value, including the city. And so we kicked off the initiative this year. The consultant was actually here in this room last month, gathering some input. And it's to bring it all together. Develop that vision, develop that plan of how do we become a creative community for arts and culture? How are we more than the sum of our individual parts by bringing us all together with a vision for what we can be in terms of arts and culture and creativity here in the city and community of Golden. Respected and relational governance, regional homelessness projects. This has been a conversation that we cannot solve homelessness on our own as Golden. It knows no boundaries. So we continue to work across the region and across Jefferson County to hopefully fund and build and support 2 new navigation centers that will be the first overnight shelter beds to exist in all of Jefferson County. There aren't any now, and so we are working with the other cities in the county to hopefully make that a reality soon. They've identified some locations, but it's going to take some time to build those navigation centers. So we also need to work to identify immediate solutions because building large facilities are going to take some time. So what can we do immediately? And then on emergency management, training, and coordination, we talked when we did the wildfire protection plan and all the prevention and mitigation and those conversations, and naturally it was, well, what happens in an emergency? Where do people go? What are the evacuation plans and routes? And that is not a City of Golden alone. That is working with area agencies like Jefferson County Sheriff's Office to plan and to test really what would happen in an emergency situation. So that's a focus for this year. And quality services, we continue to talk about broadband, fiber, that is still a topic of conversation and work that's undergoing. Long-term sustainability for Golden Fire Services, we've been talking for a while. That work is continuing, and we expect to get to a point this year where we have a plan. So we've recognized that there's just challenges. We have increasing numbers of calls, increasing complexity, and our fire department, we need to look at how it's structured, how it's financed, and make sure that we have the financial and operational sustainability to continue to provide excellent fire services to the community in the future. So that has been a big topic. We've got council working on it with city staff, and that will be coming forward with some ideas this year. And then the city works really hard to retain our excellent staff, to recruit new individuals to come work for the City of Golden, and we always want to focus on the people who work here, because projects are great, and I do love all the new shiny things like trucks and parks, but it's the people that work here that make the city such an amazing place. So those are council's initiatives that were adopted this year. I think there's 15 of them. I could be wrong. I think there's 15. And the priorities that we've set. It's our job to adopt the priorities. Council gets together, we talk about it, say these are the priorities for the year. We adopt the budget to support it. We don't actually do any of the work. We don't do the work. We just say this is what's the high level priorities. All the work gets done by the city team. I'll let Scott Vargo, our city manager, talk about that, some of the key projects and the ongoing work. But before I turn it over to Scott, we've got 4 counselors here who want to just come up, say hello, share whatever thoughts they have. So I'm going to welcome up first our District 1 counselor, Mayor Pro Tem, JJ Trout.
Hi, everyone. I'm JJ Trout. As our Mayor Laura said, I have been 4 years on City Council as District 1 representative and 2 years appointed Mayor Pro Tem, which is just a fancy title for saying when the mayor is out of town, I get to hold the gavel, so that's kind of fun. But this is my first State of the City address because we haven't done this before. And so I was thinking back, to when I started, and we had a global pandemic, and I thought, gosh, even with a global pandemic, I am super proud that under our leadership of our mayor, with our mayor's vision and leadership, that this city council was able to put together a strategic plan, and we were able to put some really foundational pieces in place, like our city council subcommittees. One that I'm on is the legislative subcommittee with Don, and we, a couple years ago, put together a legislative policy document for the very first time. Now staff and city council can use this document to really effectively advocate for the city of Golden at our county, at our state, and our federal level. So I'm super proud of all the work that we've done, and Laura says we don't do much work, but we do a lot. And I will tell you that our mayor is on our Metro Mayor Caucus, that our mayor does state legislative advocacy, national advocacy. You're leading the board for Colorado Municipal League. So our city council does a lot of that bigger picture work behind the scenes as well. But what I'm most proud of, right, when I got up and thought about the state of the city, when I look at our city manager, our deputy city manager, our leadership, all of our staff, our entire city council, we all make decisions with love for our community. And I think that's really important. I listened to a podcast 2 months ago. This neuroscientist was doing research on meditation, and he brought together an entire group of parliamentarians, right, political people. He put them in a circle, and they did a meditation. At the end, they talked about it, and they said it went well. And as soon as they took a break, this parliamentarian came running up to the neuroscientist to say, I just want to tell you, that is the most love I've felt in my entire life. And the neuroscientist responded, well, why didn't you say that in the circle? And the parliamentarian said, because if I said the word love, my peers who are here today would just beat me up. I would never get anything passed. And the neuroscientist reflected and said, so you make decisions for an entire nation without thinking about love? And the answer was yes. And so I was so devastated when I heard that, right? I think about the government, the executives nationally, globally making decisions for us, not thinking about the love of community. And then I brought it all back to local control, right? What are we gonna do? We can control local. And I thought about this amazing city council, our mayor, our city staff. And we all do. We make our decisions with love in our heart. And so when I think about the state of the city, we have a really strong foundation. Our systems, our processes, our mayor was able to get into place some really strong pieces. And we all make decisions with love in our heart. And so I think that's a great state of the city. We have a long ways to go on a lot of topics, but I think we can get there. We can stay golden and make Golden even better. Thanks all.
Next up, District 2 Councilor Casey Brown.
Hello, everybody. My name is Casey Brown, the District 2 Councilor, and as you may know, I'm in my 8th and final year here on City Council, and I thought, yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy about it too, Jim, and I thought I would just mention some of the work I've been doing behind the scenes that we may not really talk about at Council, but it's still trying to address the needs and interests of our citizens, and that is the issue of noisy trucks and the trucks that barrel through town. And ever since I've been on council for 8 years, this issue has been coming up about the trucks that are traveling through the canyons and on our highways and the noise that they produce from their Jake brakes. But the important thing to know is it's not the Jake brakes, it's that these trucks have intentionally removed their mufflers because they like the way it sounds. And unfortunately, the state laws are where those laws are found about requiring everyone to have a muffler. And there's loopholes in those laws that allows that to happen. And so despite all of the incredible efforts of our own Golden Police Department to try to enforce some of these laws, it's just ineffective and impossible to do. So I'm really thrilled that the City Council unanimously supported having me work with the Colorado Municipal League, and they were in unanimous agreement about the issue and as a problem, and they adopted it as one of their legislative priorities moving forward. So as part of that work, I've met with many people from the State Highway Patrol, the Port of Entry folks, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the Colorado Motor Carriers Association. I've held conversations with our legislative delegation, including Brianna Titone, Senate President Fenberg. We're going to make some real progress on this, and with the help of our Colorado Municipal League attorneys, we're going to be working this summer to come up with some solutions to plug up that loophole in state legislation to address noisy trucks. So I just bring that up as an example of we're working hard, even on issues that we can't really address here in the city, but that need statewide support and fixes. So, all right, thanks.
Okay, so next we have Ward 2 Councilor Paul Haseman.
So many of you know me because you recognize me wearing my Army hat. And I wear that out of pride for my service to the country. And I have a lot of pride there. And with regard to that service, I carry these in my wallet. These are thank you for your service cards. And they cover the military, the police, the fire department. Chief, let me give you a card. Because I have a lot of pride in that service. But I also have equal or greater pride in the city of Golden. It's good for us to be proud of our city, and we are proud of our city. It's got this small town character. This is Golden. It's not some other city, it's Golden. Where the rest of the state or the country could be divided, Golden serves as a symbol of civility in its treatment of each other and working together. So we can be proud of Golden and its sense of community. Key to that sense of community, and brightest among the things that show the values of Golden, are our volunteers. Here is a list of 40 volunteer opportunities in Golden, and this is a partial list. Among that list is the farmers market. I see Nola Kratzky here. Thank you, Nola. Got Be Golden, Bethany Thomas. It's on the list, and these are important. The Golden Nonprofit Leadership Forum. Kim Mangle started that. There she sits, right there, as an example, again, of volunteer opportunities in Golden. And the Stewards of Golden Open Space. There's Tom Schweiss right over there as a leader in that particular volunteer opportunity. And there are many, many more, not only that are beyond what's on this list, that we have to celebrate and take pride in with regard to the value that they add to the city. So let us take pride in our city and take pride in our spirit of civility, volunteering, and giving. So that's how I feel about the city as a member of City Council, and what I try to reinforce each time when I come to council, to be sure that it's a sense of pride and trying to further that pride in the city. Thank you much.
Thanks, Paul. And Ward 3 Councilor Don Cameron.
Thank you. I've only been on council for 1 year, 4 months, 26 days, 2 hours. Everybody knows me as a numbers guy. This is actually the third version of this, reflections on my first year on council. When I was a kid 20 decades ago in my 20s, I used to read the daily comics. My favorite was Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin was a rambunctious kid, and Hobbes was his stuffed tiger, but who was animated in his imaginary world. I remember one series about Calvin having to write a story for homework. Present-day Calvin said that future Calvin would write the story, so he went out to play with Hobbes. But future Calvin traveled back in time to talk to present Calvin, berating him into writing the story and not dumping the work on future Calvin. This reflection on my time on city council is similar. I've written and tossed versions of these reflections written by current Don and dumped the work on future Don. The first story, Reflections on My First Year on Council, included a lot about public comment and how that made me feel, and why I think people get so riled up about things. I read it to my wife, who complained it was, quote, all about you, and I said, yeah, that's the nature of a personal reflection, dear. But I got the message. Current Don again wrote a piece about why I was pushing for and happy to see that a reduced speed limit in our residential neighborhoods is going to be rolled out, the 20 is Plenty initiative. But that too ends up being all about what I did in self-focus. So days ago, current Don was unable to present the true message of lessons learned and dumped the problem on future Don to figure it out. And that is the lesson I learned. Being a city councilor is a tricky balance between current self and future self. 99% of the input we get to do or not do something is from current self or current selves, as we all are. So little of the input comes from future selves who can guide us with their wisdom gained in living life, in sharing how things worked out. But importantly, the current self does not take into account the impact of changes on the future self enough. That's a well-known problem in governments, sometimes known as tragedy of the commons. But it's also people's inability to imagine a future much different than the present. I feel that striking a better balance between current self and future self with regards to requests from constituents is an important lesson. As an example, the Sustainability Board is pushing for net zero energy buildings, which in the present period of time is going to be hard to do cost effectively. But our future buildings will use less energy if we build them right. Parking now is perceived to be a problem when, at a given moment, you can't park where you want to park immediately. But creating new parking is like building a new power plant to accommodate peak energy needs on a hot day. Building for peak capacity has a huge cost and is not necessarily good for the future self. Do you want to build a lot of parking that gets used infrequently? Or do you want to have a balance of uses that works better sometimes than others? It's tricky. It's not an easy answer. Future self had to write this reflection because current self failed at the task. I hope that in the next year, current self can suggest changes that are good for future self as well. Or as often is said, let's not kick the can down the road. We need to pick up the cans and put them where they belong.
Thanks, Don, and with former councilor Jim Dale in the audience, who said that very statement at a council meeting. It does come up often. So with that, thank you all of council who's been here. I'm going to turn things over to our city manager, Scott Vargo. This is Scott's first state of the city for Golden. And I want to just say that if you haven't had a chance to meet Scott yet, I hope you get a chance to meet Scott while you're here today or another day. But take it away, Scott.
Thanks, Mayor. So now's your chance to get up and leave if all you wanted to hear was the mayor and council. Fair game. Certainly very excited, very proud to be in the role of city manager here in Golden. It has been an exciting transition for me, a good change for me. For those of you that don't know, I came down from Summit County, was in Summit County for 23 years. It took us a little bit longer than we were expecting to transition to be in Golden, but we did finally sell our house up in Frisco. So that was exciting, and now we have started the daunting process of trying to find one of the 4 houses that are for sale within Golden that suits my wife's needs. And so she has now, on the last 2 occasions, said, for 2 houses that were, I'll say, improvements over the first dozen that we had seen, she said, this is still not my dream home, and then we just left. And so that was pretty much it. So we're going to continue that process. If you know people that are interested in selling their home, feel free to reach out to me. I'll take any referrals that you guys can give me. Let's see, to the mayor, mayor only got 1 picture. I was going to do 5 or 6 because that's just me, but I just stuck with 2. That's my family. On the left-hand side, I have two adult daughters. One is 22 22 now, and one is 25. And so they are in different parts of the country or the world. One is in San Diego, and one is in Costa Rica. We're living in an apartment right now, and in June, my youngest daughter will be coming home from San Diego for a little while and staying for the summer with us. We have a 2-bedroom apartment that we're in right now, and so that'll work fine. But then my older daughter is also coming back to visit from Costa Rica for a little while, and so she and her sister will get to share a room, which neither one of them are terribly thrilled about at this stage of their lives. But anyway, I think everybody should be very proud of the city, very proud of Golden. I've been incredibly impressed with the council, the dedication and the passion that they have for their role. Been incredibly pleased with the patience and the support that my management, my leadership team has shared with me over the first 7 or 8 months that I've been on board as well. And you should be very proud of the leadership and the position that Golden stands in within Front Range communities and communities within the state and beyond. So let's see here. I've got notes here on this, which will be probably a little awkward for me to use, but we're going to do my best with it. I have 112 more slides, and so we're a little bit short on time. I'm going to try and go through my slides quickly. They're not really 112. Let's see. The first thing I want to do is introduce the management team. So there are pictures here, but they're real life in person here as well. And so I'll just ask you guys to kind of stand up and do a twirl and a parade wave or something like that. So Carly Rentz, who is our deputy city manager. Well done. Excellent work. Excellent work. Kristen Meyer, our human resources director. Chief Joe Harvey, our police chief. Monica Mendoza, our city clerk. And Giles McCoy, who I did not see, so I don't think Giles is here today. And then we have Rick Muraby, who is our community development division director. Jeff Hansen, who is our finance director. Special round of applause for our fire chief, Casey Beal, who is new to the role as well. Ann Byerly, who is moderately injured, our public works director. She's recovering. Teresa Worsham, our sustainability manager. And then shout out to Chad Meinert, who is serving as our Parks and Rec interim director as well. So all of those folks, incredibly important to the functioning of your city and to our community. And so again, they deserve every bit of applause that you guys can muster. We do have some recruitment issues. We've got some management team vacancies. So we are, as I mentioned, Chad is serving in an interim role within Parks and Rec, but we are looking for a new Parks and Rec director. Rod Tarullo has moved on to Glenwood to be their director in that community. And then our communications director moved along to the climate office within the city of Denver. And so both of them have great opportunities, great new positions, and so we are actively searching for those jobs. Mayor mentioned thriving communities, the lodging tax, the visitor impact fees, a lot of projects that are associated with those funds and trying to maintain a thriving community within Golden. And so we've recently begun a recruitment process for a thriving communities director position as well that will sit on this management team or with this management team. And then we've got other just general recruitments. And so we have lots of seasonal positions. That's the photo, the lifeguard photo. That's one of the areas that we tend to struggle with on a seasonal basis. Oftentimes, I think that would be a much better job than my job. And especially with the Hawaiian hat and all of that kind of stuff. So I may apply for that. We'll see. But so far, so good. Paul mentioned volunteering and opportunities around that. We are very actively working right now to bolster our volunteer program and provide more information and more opportunities for the community to help and volunteer with the city as well. Rihanna Rogers, who's all the way in the very back, nether reaches of the room, Kudos to her. She helped with all the logistics associated with this meeting, and she is also the person that's heading up the volunteer activities within the city. She came on board just within the last couple of months. All right. Let's see. So the mayor talked about this pyramid. This is, again, our strategic action plan. It is really important for us as a city to, and as city staff to embrace the strategic plan. It really is sort of the guiding philosophy behind what we do, when we do, and how we do it. And to the mayor's point, those success factors at the top of the pyramid are the big overarching policy and philosophical guidance that we need. And then we have council initiatives. Those are the items that council has identified as their top priorities that typically have some level of sort of policy involvement or activity that is very directly involving council. Then we get to the key projects, as the mayor said, which are the work, some of the on-the-ground operational stuff that's happening in order to make those things a reality. And then the final item on there, which is the building block and the base of that pyramid, is the ongoing work that we're doing as a city. Doesn't get the level of excitement or intrigue that some of the shiny objects do, the brand new truck or the new roadway or whatever it might be, but they are incredibly important to the operation and the function of the city on a much more general basis. And so it's really important that we've incorporated that to be a big part of our strategic plan to try to make sure that folks recognize that and see that as we go forward. Let me see if I missed anything here. I think that's close enough. I will mention that all of the 2023 Strategic Action Plan materials are on Guiding Golden. You can go in, you can scroll down. There's a big icon there that talks about the Strategic Action Plan. Go there, that shows you all of this information. What the mayor put was a summary. What I've got here is a summary. I'm not going to go through anywhere close to what I was going to go through as I go through my slides. And so I just want you to know that that information is all there in much greater detail. And there's a huge list of things related to the ongoing work. Not a complete, but a very long list of the types of work that we do on a day-to-day basis that people may not see, may not realize, may not understand. So I want everybody to be aware that that's a place where you can get that info. Again, I've formatted this presentation. We're not doing this for like home videos. This whole presentation will be available online along with the slideshow here. And so I'm not going to go through all of these in any kind of detail, but understand that it's there and it's available for you guys to see as a short summary of some of the key items that are available. This is, again, categorized in the same way that the mayor categorized those council initiatives. So underneath each individual success factor, you've got the council initiatives, then you've got key projects within those. And so that's the format. We're trying to continue to push that out and share that information as we go through the budgeting process. We'll have a more deliberate effort around how we categorize our budget materials in this to reference this strategic plan as well. Let's see, I will skip through most of these. I will make a comment about this one. So up on the top, the 2022 projects, participation in Golden Hills Park preservation. So again, this goes to one of the big key projects and policy initiatives that council has around housing for all. So this is the preservation of the Golden Hills Mobile Home Park that was purchased by another corporate entity. That entity has turned around and offered it for sale. The City of Golden and City Council has been incredibly supportive financially of that effort to maintain that naturally occurring affordable housing within Golden. And so the council, within the last 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 meetings, approved $2 million towards a contribution to help with the financing of that resident-owned community purchase, and an incredibly valuable and important element within our community. So just want to point that one out. Let's see, I will mention in the 2023 projects, website redesign. That has been a project that is desperately in need. The website that we have right now, other than small minor refreshes, hasn't really been updated since I think 2011. So it is in desperate need of an update to be able to take better advantage of mobile services, to be sure that it's accessible under ADA, et cetera. And so that is a project that is underway. We've done a lot of surveying to try to get and understand what the needs of the community are around the website and information and how we push it out. And now we've got an RFP that's out on the street to identify a variety of vendors that are interested in providing that website. And we'll make a selection here within probably the next month or so, then get moving on a whole new design. Let's see. This is, again, under respected and relational governance. This is, I'll just mention the very last item, last bullet there. We've been asked by council to try to bring in other community groups to our council meetings on a regular basis so that they can provide just a little bit of an overview about what they're doing, maybe understanding how the city might be able to support some of their needs. We've brought in groups like Be Golden, we've brought in the Rotary and others, and we've got a whole list of folks that are scheduled to come in so that we can continue to get feedback and insight from other organizations and community or civic groups within the community. Quality services, the mayor mentioned the SAFER grant. So I will mention this. So there's a picture there of Parfit Park, and in the background is a restroom facility. So in Summit County, we used to have an event that was called the COO Breakfast. So that was all of the COOs, chief operating officers of all of the ski resorts. So Copper Mountain, Keystone, Breckenridge, A-Basin, and then we would let Loveland participate, even though they're on the other side of the pass, other side of the tunnel. But they would come as well. And you have this behemoth in Vail Resorts with regards to Keystone and Breckenridge. And then you have a sort of mid-sized resort, I'll say, with Copper Mountain, but still pretty financially flush. And then you have A-Basin and you have Loveland. And the big ski resorts would come in and they'd talk about the $30 million capital investment they were doing at the base area, or all of the new lifts that they were putting in, or how they were going to be doing just massive development within their areas. And then you would have Loveland come in, and it became sort of a running joke after about 10 years. They would come in with whatever bathroom restoration project they were doing as part of their capital, and that was the main capital they were doing. So I thought, well, here, we're going to do some public restroom updates, so I'm going to throw in Parfit Park. So we've got 3 restroom upgrades, Astor House, Parfit Park, and Lions, that we're going to be working on, and so I'm sure those are hugely thrilling to everybody. Okay, last thing that I have here is related to the ongoing maintenance and work. And what I did here, rather than trying to walk through a ton of very specific projects and whatnot, is I just put down a whole bunch of statistics that I think try to illustrate to some degree the amount or the volume of activity that the city is doing on a regular basis. And so these are generally annual numbers or sort of comprehensive numbers from 2022. So half a million square feet of pavement was milled and overlaid in 2022. 952 million gallons of water was treated. 85 miles of streets were maintained and plowed. And again, that's about 85 miles more streets being plowed than most other cities are doing within the Front Range. So that's a big plus for us. 114 miles of water mains, 79 miles of sewage lines, and then 67,000 utility bills were processed during that time. We've got some other statistics here. I have 2 more of these, that's all. 52,000 sales tax returns were processed. 13,490 accounts payable transactions took place. I'm sure everybody's thrilled with this one. 2,144 citations were issued. More than 3 million pounds of recycling and organic materials were diverted from the landfill. We had 54 land use cases, 12 historic preservation cases, and our equipment, our county snowplows, trucks, commuter vehicles, whatever they might be, 669,315 miles covered by those city vehicles over the course of the year. And then from the PD, 23,813 total calls for service. That is almost an even split between calls that they initiate themselves versus calls that are dispatched from 911. Our HR office hired or rehired 212 employees, and we had 1,151,483 visits to the city. So that gives you some sense of the volume of people that are coming in and spending some time here. And then to Chad's group, 1,124 trees were planted by the city forestry staff over the course of the last 5 years, which is, again, something that I think we should all be proud of. So big round of applause for the city staff and for the community in general.
Thanks, Scott. You know, Don said he likes numbers. I think we can all be fairly impressed when we actually see the numbers, right? We know a lot of work goes on by city staff every day. I'd be really interested, Chad, in how many tulips are planted and all the planters, because they're all blooming right now. There's a lot of tulips out there in our parks and in our downtown as well. But that's an overview, right? That's high level what we've got going on in the city. I hope that you can all see and feel and appreciate all that is happening in the city of Golden right now, the work that's being done in 2023. I believe, and I think we all believe, that it reflects what the community wants us to be working on, and the issues and the priorities that are coming to us from our community. We're certainly available to ask questions. If you want to come to the microphone, if you just want to ask us separately, individually, that is fine too. But I hope I can speak for all of us, staff, council. We appreciate you taking the time, right, to be here on a Saturday morning, to engage, to hear what's going on in the city of Golden, and to just help us celebrate all these accomplishments of what has been done in the past, and get excited for the work that we're doing in the future. So thank you all for being here, and if you have any questions, happy to answer any.